What's up, guys?
What's going on, Dana? A little international flavor tonight with the contract winners. I guess was the main event probably the easiest call of the night. I mean, big undefeated heavyweight that gets finished in the first round.
Yeah, I mean, Igor da Silva, in my opinion, was...
Oh, Igor was the best one?
Yeah. I mean, when you look at... First of all, like I said out there, 20 years old is way too young. Guy's been fighting for 5 years at 20 years old. His first fight was when he was 15. He's 8-0, 100% finish rate, 4 knockouts, 4 subs. Went in there and looked incredible. And this kid is also a champion in jungle fights, so he's had 5-round experience too. Where do you find a kid 20 years old that has all of that? Nowhere. So he was my first choice for the night. And obviously, a big heavyweight like that who's now 11-0, undefeated, obviously has big power, one-punch knockout power. And at his age, he's a guy you can throw. That's what I liked about a couple of, I got a guy that's too young, and I got a couple of guys that can be thrown right into big fights right now.
I was going to ask you about that because you mentioned Igor da Silva and Kanan, 32 years old, 20 years old. Is it, for guys that are out there that want to be here, right? Is there an ideal path? Is it like, at young, 20 years old, you could kind of maybe get a shot? Or is it, hey, would you say get more seasoning, get more fights? Is there
Everybody's unique. Everybody's got a different story and a different background. And, this kid's been fighting for 5 years. He's 20 years old. Some of these kids that we find that are, 24, 25 haven't been fighting for 5 years. So I think that every guy has unique experience. And Kanan is another one. He's got 16 fights with 13 finishes. So that's a lot of experience. And what does that tell you with 13 finishes? He doesn't fuck around. Yeah. That guy goes in to finish fights. So he's right up my alley.
When guys come in young like that, I mean, we just had Raul Rosas Jr. competing, a teenager. Do you tell the matchmakers anything like, hey, these young guys, let's...
Tell them nothing. These guys know what they're doing. This is probably, other than like the UFC and guys that are ranked and guys that have made it, the matchmaking on this show is incredible. Incredible. So I don't question anything. I don't know anything when I walk in. I have no rooting interest at all. I just walk in and whatever happens on Tuesday night happens, and I make a decision based off what I see there. And then once I'm watching them fight, and then as I start to dive into who they are and where they come from and what they've done, it's fun.
So walk us through the logic on the draw, right? Unique situation. You got a draw, so you don't have a winner. And we're sitting here thinking, do you go 0 contracts? Do you go 2 contracts?
You all know what a 10-8 round is now, right?
Yes.
That was a 10-8 round, right? Would everybody agree that was a 10-8 round?
100%.
Complete domination. Looks like it could be stopped. The significant strikes were 50-something to 9. That's a 10-8 round. Let's start there. Yes, the first ever draw. The minute that girl Stephanie stepped into the octagon, it's this weird fucking thing that happens to me. I was like, interesting. Let's see how she fights. She's super young. She's 23 years old. She's 5-1. This other girl's 32. She's 4-0. This is like both ends of the spectrum for me. And then as the fight started to play out, I like Stephanie. It's going to be. I'm interested to see her first fight in the UFC. She goes home and works on some things. What I really loved is when you look at Talita, she's a 6-time Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu world champion black belt. And she had a lot of ground control. Her big thing is the rear naked choke. She had her back a few times. She couldn't finish her. So it's interesting. It's going to be interesting to see what Stephanie can do.
I want to ask you, we said international flavor night. We had Dana White's Contender Series Brazil before. Is there any talk ever of doing like national themed shows like that again? Or do you feel like just the one season each year is enough?
What's the question?
You know how you did like Contender Series Brazil before? Like tonight we had a lot of Brazilians. That
was tonight. Tonight was Contender Series Brazil.
I was wondering, do you ever talk about doing like international themed seasons like that again?
We have talked about it. Yeah, we actually recently, within the last week, we talked about it. But I don't know. I was worried about coming out of COVID that, we'd have a hard time with talent. It's actually been the opposite. I mean, there's talent popping up everywhere. So I don't know. Could be.
A couple outside of tonight, you mentioned the 10-8 rounds. I think we all know what you're referencing there. Well, we didn't see you on Saturday. So I guess what were your thoughts on the title fight and how it played out?
So I was on vacation when this thing happened, and I'm sitting in my house going, when I found out that one of the judges scored 10-8, I'm like, this guy should be fucking investigated for this. This is the craziest shit I've ever seen in my life. And as I started to talk to people, I guess there's a seminar tomorrow with the Athletic Commission on 10-8s. So hopefully they can get this cleared up, especially in title. There's so much at stake in a title fight. More than just money, show and win and pay-per-view and championships and legacies. And it's just, you have to have the best of the best in title fights. So they've assured me that this guy isn't a bad guy. He just fucked up and made a mistake. And it's unfortunate. And there's no way in hell that was a 10-8 round.
Now you kind of wonder what you do next, right? I mean, it sounds like Valentina is going to need surgery on her hand, so I don't know if that impacts it. But do you feel like they need to fight a third time?
You have to rematch. You have to do the rematch. We will rematch them. It's the right thing to do. It's the fight that needs to happen. And so let me tell you guys this. Let me tell you this text I got today. Fuck did it go? All right. Hey, Dana. Your idea to go all in on Mexican Independence Day paid off. Noche UFC was the most watched fight night of all time on ESPN+. 1.1 million unique views. 1.1 million people that had never been to ESPN+ tuned in for that fight. So think about that. It generated 167 million total minutes. Yeah. And it did 3x the average viewership minutes watched on the Spanish feed.
Wow.
Killed it.
Wow.
It was an incredible success.
Do you think you'll make that an annual event? I think we weren't really sure going into it. I mean, it was super.
I will get that date every year from now on. Yes.
Very nice. And you did say that, so you'll match them next. Shevchenko, Grasso will have to fight next, you think?
Yes.
Great. Last thing for me, I just want to get a follow-up. Have you had a chance to speak to Israel Adesanya yet? We're still kind of waiting.
I have not. I know he's in LA right now working on some stuff, but no, I haven't talked to him.
Are you waiting to hear from him before you decide what to do at middleweight?
No. Listen, he's one of the things, we were talking about this week too, that we always love about Israel. Israel was willing to fight anybody, anywhere, anytime, loved to turn around quickly and fight again. And when he wants to fight, he'll let us know.
Dana, going back to that 10-8, obviously we can't really make an assumption, but what do you think the judge was thinking during that? Do you think it was like, I feel like Alexa won the fight, but I've scored it too far to Valentina, so I kind of have to make it up? Did he not see the choke properly? Like, what do you think could have caused him to make that a 10-8?
Unfortunately, you'll probably never have the opportunity to have him sitting somewhere like this and ask him that question, because only he knows the answer to that question. Valentina gets dropped in like the second or third round. I don't remember. That's not a 10-8, but the fifth round is a 10-8.
Especially when Valentina was winning the first 3 minutes of the fifth round.
It literally makes no sense.
Is that something you would like to see? I know you can't make it happen, but would you like the judges to be able to speak to the media after a controversial decision, or even the commission themselves just come out and speak? Do you think that's something that could benefit them, or is it going to make them a target of like crazy hate and bullshit?
Yeah, unfortunately, that is part of and I get it, why the Athletic Commission wouldn't want to put their guys out in front of, the media and deal with the fans and all the bullshit. You just don't throw 10-8s around. 10-8s are... Third round tonight was a 10-8. When there is an absolute ass whooping and the fight could be stopped at any moment and one fighter absolutely dominates from bell to bell, you can score it a 10-8. This whole, domination, control, and all this other bullshit, it's just the biggest crock of shit of all time for a 10-8. A 10-8 is an absolute ass whooping. Period.
If the judges aren't going to speak to the media or the fans, do you think they should at least be able to speak to the fighters themselves? So Valentina should be able to go to that judge and be like, explain to me how you gave that 10-8 to Alexa. Do you think you'd like to see that?
No, you're not going to see that. And you have to understand too, and I'm not defending anything, These people are human. They make mistakes, but this one's total bullshit. For that to be a 10-8 round, there is no excuse for that. There is no excuse for that 10-8.
UFC Noche, you want to have that on the same date every year. This year, you pushed Canelo off that date. I know sometimes you guys have clashed in the past, but it seemed like you got that and they didn't want to go against you. You think these numbers that you pulled this week?
I will go that date every day. I don't care if somebody here in town gets the date at the arena. I'll go in an opposing arena and go head-to-head with them next year. I'm doing this for the rest of my reign here. So they can go on the same night. We can go head-to-head. I'm going. Thing was a massive success for us. This was something that I've been thinking about since the day we bought this company. So we're finally in the position. I'm all my chips are in on Mexico. We're opening the PI, which we spent, millions and millions of dollars on. I was in here talking to you guys. It might even have been you or somebody else. We were talking about why aren't you doing it? I said, you know what? You're absolutely right. Why am I not doing that? We did it. It was huge, and we'll do it again every year, regardless of whether boxing goes or doesn't go. I will go head-to-head with them every year.
Awesome.
Hi, Dana.
Yep.
I just have a quick question about Power Slap. Today there was a new rule change announced. What went into that, and what was the decision behind doing that?
Yeah, so this thing is still evolving and growing, and the commission was very. They've been great with us, and figuring this whole thing out and making it as good as possible. We just had drug tests again, like there was one failure instead of, it's no different than the UFC in the early days. I mean, we didn't start spending millions of dollars a year with USADA because we thought it was, just something we wanted to do. It's something that we had to do to clean up the sport. And, we're going to continue to tweak rules and production and work with the commissions all over the country. As we lead into next year, early next year, we'll be in 5-6 new states. So then we'll start traveling around and selling tickets and doing things like that. So everything's good, man. Our video game, I don't know if I told you guys this already, but the video game did 350 million downloads and just kicking ass. So it's all good. And the commission's been awesome. They've been great to work with.
I was wondering if you could also just talk to me a little bit about Raul Rosas Jr. and his performance. What did you think of that?
Whose performance?
Raul Rosas.
Who?
Jr.?
Oh, yeah. I mean, what could you, it was incredible. He came out and, absolutely dominated, a real guy, tough guy, and looked good doing it. He got the pop. So I don't know what it was like for you guys, but on my social, I'll give you an example, like the face-off between Valentina and Alexa did 1.5 million views in less than 24 hours. He did 3 million views in less than 24 hours. He doubled what the main event did and destroyed the rest of the card as far as views. They love that kid.
Do you think we could possibly see him maybe headlining a fight night coming up soon? Maybe have a youngest headliner?
After what happened on Saturday night, we're going to Mexico. So, yeah. I don't think he won't be headlining Mexico, but he'll be there. So we're already in the works on the Mexico fight.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Going back to the Noche UFC, the outdoor weigh-ins and that Q&A, what did you think about that? Did you like that? And is that something that's going to be part of it going forward?
Well, we've done it before. We've done that before many times in different cities. But, yeah, that's always a winner when the weather's right.
And then last thing, just to clarify, you talked about how Grasso, for sure, we want to have that rematch. If the injury of Shevchenko and the surgery of the recovery is long, are you still going to hold out and make that rematch?
No, we're comfortable with where she's at as far as her injury is. We're comfortable with it. That should probably start striking again in 3 months or a little less. Yeah. Yep, all good.
Dana, as you mentioned, you want to go back to Mexico, and it was announced on the broadcast that the plan is for 2024. It could be like first quarter, or could it be at the same time as the PI opening?
No.
No, it's going to be separate events. And,
unfortunately, believe me, I would love to have it coincide with the opening of the PI, but the timing's not going to work on that.
And what are the odds for Alexa to be right now? You still have a champ. Now we realize that it could be like a fight night or another noche UFC in Mexico City. What are the odds for her to be like defending the belt in Mexico this time?
Very good. Very good.
So it will depend on when Valentina is going to be.
Is what?
It will depend on the timing on Valentina's injury to go back to
No, I think that Valentina can start striking in under 3 months or 3 months. So we're good.
We spoke for the first time about having this Mexican not in the pens because it was about Cinco de Mayo in March. So can you take us about the process of what happened with your team when the first time you told them, I want to do this, I want to take this Mexican dates from boxing. I think we can compete now. We have enough talent. Can you tell us about the process of what happened during this year?
I don't want to take the dates from boxing. They can do whatever they want to do. You know what I mean? It's not like, oh, I'm going to take this date now. You can't have it. You guys can go at the same time. You can do whatever you want to do. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I mean, as soon as I said, yeah, why are we not doing this? We should do this. We went right back to the office the next day and started working on building the card. And, you know, we built what was Saturday.
There was a few, like, unique things for Noche, like the graphics and the music during the cuts and everything, and even the jersey. Have you seen the jerseys are around $600 now? I mean, they sold out like early in the card, and then like people's paying $600, $700 for the green jerseys.
I heard about that, but I didn't see them. I didn't see that. Yeah,
they're on eBay around $700 today.
Are they really? Oh shit! All right. Yeah. Yeah, so this was our first time out, and you know how we operate. It'll get better every year. We'll make it bigger and better every year that we do it. We're all in on this thing.
Thanks a lot, Dana.
All right.
Just to follow up on Noche, obviously it was free this year. Do you see that staying the same every year, or do you think eventually it'll be so big? UFC Noche. Do you think it'll be stay free, or can you see it becoming a pay-per-view?
Yeah. I mean, just like everything that we do, it will evolve and get better and grow and get bigger. And with the opening of the PI, and it's just, every time I say this to you guys, am I wrong? Watch what we do in the next 3 years down in Mexico. Watch what we do in the next 3 years.
Dana, can you explain a little bit more on why you passed on Daniel Allen? Was it just was it his record? Was his age?
No.
Listen, he didn't get a finish.
Yeah, nope, none of that. I look at people, and for example, you know, Stephanie, right? Young, this, that, but I in that fight tonight, she was aggressive. She tried to finish the whole time, stuffing shots, and I think she was on the ground for 6 minutes and 27 seconds with a 6-time Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu world champion, whose thing is the rear naked choke. She stayed out of it the whole time. She was dominant on the feet, aggressive, and I just saw something in her that I liked, and I think she can be somebody. Now, Daniel Allen, so he goes in, you know, if he didn't wrestle tonight. He had to stand up. He was in there with a damn good wrestler. There were a lot of fouls in the fight. He is 4-0 and he's 31 years old, and he needs more time. What I did like about him were all the things that I said. He's undefeated. He's 5-0. He's a 2-1 dog. He proved the odds makers wrong tonight, and everybody who bet against him tonight, he proved them wrong. And he just needs some more time. I think with some time, I think we'll see him again.
Did Daniel Cormier almost convince you to sign him?
No. I was saying Cormier and I were on a plane on the way home from New York, and you know, he was telling me the story about how he watched UFC 100, and he was like, "This is awesome." He'd seen it before, but for some reason, UFC 100 hit him different, and he wanted to go to 101. So he went to 101. He loved the show, and he said, I'm going to do this. And he fought like 4 days later or something like that. And that was it. I mean, I think he was 31 or 32 and became one of the greatest of all time. So listening to that story made me think, I'm looking at these guys that are in their early 30s, And I don't think that they have enough time to become world champions or whatever. I'm wrong.
So, like, even listening to that story, like, did it kind of almost push you to sign him?
No, not even close. I think this kid needs more time. I think that I would be doing him a huge disservice bringing him in at the level he's at now into the UFC. He could fight in these smaller shows and get more experience with guys that are his level. And I believe we will see this guy again someday. This isn't one of those things where, like, I'm not interested in this guy, whatever. If this kid can keep it right after not getting picked tonight, get some more experience, I believe we'll see him again.
With you saying that, Grasso versus Shevchenko is probably next, is it safe to say Aaron Blanchfield versus Manon Farrow is probably going to be next for the number one contender?
It would make sense, right?
And then finally, there's been some rumblings, China in December. Are you trying to do Weili Zhang versus Yao Xiaonan for the strawweight title?
Yeah, that's not true. That wouldn't be China, no.
Thank you.
Yep. You know we're getting thin on fucking questions at the Contender Series when you guys are asking me about China fights. This better be good. What do you got?
I'm putting the focus back on Contender. Igor Silva obviously won a contract today, and he's only 20 years old. Last year, you signed Raul Rosas Jr., who's going to turn 19 next month. As someone who's been around this game for a long time, what do you make of all these young athletes making it to the big stage at such a young age? And what do you make of this, like, in terms of the evolution of the sport, where we're seeing all these young guys make it to the UFC at that age?
I think that every once in a while you will find these kids that are special, that at a younger age, they can come in here and they can adapt to it. I mean, look at Vitor Belfort. Vitor Belfort was like 18 years old with his first fight in the UFC, and the guy became a legend and stuck around forever and fought all the best in the world. Some have it and some don't. I think that Igor has it. We're going to find out whether I'm right or wrong. So.
And you said you felt something special when you saw Stephanie make the walk tonight. You mentioned, like, the it factor. What are some other fighters you've seen where you felt that same feeling?
Sugar Sean O'Malley, Conor McGregor the first time I ever met him, Ronda Rousey the first time I ever met her. The list goes on. Chuck Liddell. When I met Chuck Liddell, the UFC didn't want Chuck Liddell. They had released him and they didn't want him in the UFC. I mean, when I managed him, I was fighting with those guys for like over a year to try to get them to sign Chuck Liddell. They didn't want him. And I wanted to put the focus back on Noche UFC for a second. There was a prelim fight between Lacerda and Chairez where referee Chris Taglioni stopped the fight when he thought Lacerda went out. I'm not sure if you saw that. After review, they made the decision, and indeed he was not out, and they called it a no decision. What'd you make of all of that? Yeah, listen, it's unfortunate. It sucks when that stuff happens, but when you think about what instant replay was meant to do, why it was, why it was put in place, it did what it was supposed to do. And I know you just kind of bashed on that China stuff, but there's also rumblings about Ireland in December. Is that true? You had to fuck this whole thing up, didn't you? You were on point. Now we're in fucking Ireland? I have no idea if we're going to Ireland yet. You blew it, kid. You blew it. Does anybody else have any other stupid questions for me tonight? Thank you. Have a good night.